Hey everyone, it's Chris. So for the past few months or so, I've been doing some research into 7-SIMUL. For those who don't know, it is a method on the Rubik's clock where you are able to solve the clock in 7 pairs of simultaneous moves or less every single time. And I think the coolest part about it is that you are able to basically plan out the entire solve just by doing mental arithmetic and calculating from the states of the clocks during the 15 seconds of inspection. And it is proven to be very, very effective. It has been used by the world record holders for the past few years. If you want to be as fast as clock as is currently humanly possible, that is the go-to method. So I was really interested in it and how it works, and so I was doing a lot of math and programming, and I found a really, really cool way of going about it, and I really want to show it to other people because I think some people would really enjoy how it works and maybe even get really fast at it if they practice it enough. So I built this method around mathematical exhaustion. And what I mean by that is any case you come up with, any case you get on the clock, you should be able to get through it no matter what. Or in other words, it has roughly a 100% success rate, but over virtually 100% of solves, you should get around a 100% success rate, which, because the clock only has 12 hours, that should round up to 100%. So yeah, pretty good. By the way, I do recommend that you already know, or at least be familiar with, one 7-SIMUL method that already exists before you try to tackle this, because if you don't, you will be missing a lot of fundamentals about just how this works in general, and a lot of the information I'll be presenting in this tutorial will kind of rely on that. So if you wish, I do recommend it, go watch another 7-SIMUL tutorial first. So let's get into it. So first I'd like to quickly go over the notation I'll be using in this video, because there's going to be a lot of information presented in writing, and I want to make sure you guys understand that. So people often assume that the clock has 18 clocks on it, when actually it has 14, and that's because the corner clocks are always bound to each other on opposite sides. And so there are actually only 14 clocks, and therefore there are only 14 names for the clocks. And those names in this video will be UL for upper left, U, UR, L, C for center, R, DL, D, DR, and then on the back with a Y2, UB, LB, CB, RB, and DB. And then there are also names for the pin states. If there's only one pin up, then it's simply going to be the name of the clock, of the corner clock next to that pin. So for example, this is UL, and then here's UR, DL, DR. If there are 2 pins up and they're adjacent to each other, you just call it, like for example, this is R because it's the right side of the clock, and then we have U, L, and D. If you happen to have diagonal pins, this is called a slash state. And so when it's left on top, right on bottom, it looks like a backslash. So this is called backslash. And then here we have forward slash. And then finally, if you have 3 pins up, this will be written as the corner clock that is the corner clock next to the pin that is down, but in small letters to show, I guess, that it's down. So for example, this is little dl, and this is little dr, little ur, and little ul. I'd also like to apologize for the slightly distracting inserts I have in this clock. I don't have a clock on hand that has no inserts in them like this one, so we're just going to have to use this one for now. Okay, so let's look at each of the steps in the method, as well as their associated pin states, the front and back moves, and the calculations that you'll have to do in your head in order to determine how far to do the moves. So this method actually has 9 moves you need to memorize. I know some other methods have less moves you need to memorize and more intuitive moves. This one still does have intuitive moves. However, I decided to have as many memorized moves as I could because, once again, I wanted to prioritize mathematical robustness in this method. Once again, you know, handling cases to exhaustion. And so by making more moves memorized, that means you, the solver, are going to be able to solve more cases as they come up. I hope that makes sense. So first, let's look at the pin order. So it goes DL, R, L, little ul, backslash, little dr, and ur. So let's see a physical version of that. So we start at DL, R, L, little ul, backslash, little dr, ur. Now, you may have noticed that there were a lot of pin changes in that routine, and I chose that on purpose because, for example, when you look at the R move to the L move, or the R state to the L state, you're gripping the clock quite well with your hands, sometimes even like down here, like you would with a Rubik's Magic or something. And I also purposefully chose that in order to minimize cube drops, because those have been, well, clock drops in this case, because those have been so nasty in the past. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, let's go through each of the 14 moves you'll have to do, whether they are intuitive or memorized, and if they are memorized, what math you will have to do in order to remember how far to do that move when you get to it. So we will be beginning, of course, in the DL pin state. So on the front is an intuitive move. You are simply going to align the center clock to the upper clock with your front move. And on the back, this is a memorized move. The math you need to do is minus 1/3 UL plus 1/3 U, minus 2/3 UR, minus 1/3 L, minus 1/3 C, plus 2/3 R, plus 1/3 DL, plus 1/3 D, minus 1/3 DR, minus 2/3 UB, minus 1/3 LB, minus 1/3 CB, plus 2/3 RB, plus 1/3 DB. Okay, so next is the R pin state. On the front is another intuitive move, simply aligning the D clock to the L clock. And on the back is a memorized move, but it's quite simple. So when a move is memorized and it has this arrow, that means you simply look at the first clock and then imagine what move you need to do in order to get to the next clock. So LB to DB in this case, because it's 12 and 12, that means it's going to be 0. But if this were 1 and this were at 2, 1 to 2 is 1. And so that's how you memorize the moves with the arrows in them. Next is the L pin state. On the front is yet another intuitive move. You will align either U or C to R. U and C will already be aligned at this point, so that should be pretty simple. And on the back is another memorized move, just RB to UB. And then next in the little UL pin state is 1/3 UL minus 1/3 U minus 1/3 UR minus 2/3 L plus 1/3 C plus 1/3 R minus 1/3 DL plus 2/3 D minus 2/3 DR minus 1/3 UB minus 2/3 LB plus 1/3 CB plus 1/3 RB minus 1/3 DB. And then on the back is a pretty simple memorized move, DB to CB. Next is backslash. So on the front, you will have 1/3 UL minus 1/3 U plus 2/3 UR minus 2/3 L plus 1/3 C minus 2/3 R plus 2/3 DL minus 1/3 D plus 1/3 DR plus 2/3 UB plus 1/3 LB minus 2/3 CB plus 1/3 RB plus 2/3 DB. And then on the back, you'll have 2/3 UL minus 2/3 U plus 1/3 UR minus 1/3 L plus 2/3 C minus 1/3 R plus 1/3 DL minus 2/3 D plus 1/3 DR plus 1/3 UB plus 2/3 LB minus 1/3 CB plus 2/3 RB plus 1/3 DB. Next up is little dr. On the front you will have negative 2/3 UL plus 2/3 U minus 1/3 UR plus 1/3 L plus 1/3 C. These will be in the description, don't worry. Minus 2/3 R minus 1/3 DL minus 1/3 D plus 1/3 DR minus 1/3 UB plus 1/3 LB plus 1/3 CB minus 2/3 RB minus 1/3 DB. And then on the back is another simple memorized move, UB to CB. And finally, the last move, it will be very obvious what to do. On the front, you simply move the block in the UR position to 12. And then on the back, because the back will be controlling the corners, you just move the corners to the 12 as well with your other finger. But if you don't want to mess with having to, look for 12 and align it right to 12, you can instead use minus 1/3 UL plus 1/3 U plus 1/3 UR plus 2/3 L minus 1/3 C minus 1/3 R minus 2/3 DL plus 1/3 D minus 1/3 DR plus 1/3 UB plus 2/3 LB minus 1/3 CB minus 1/3 RB minus 2/3 DB. And that's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an example scramble. I've performed example scramble number 1 here, which is on screen and also in the description. And because I'm not so good at the math or the memorization yet, I have the guide here, and I'm just going to write down what moves I need to do, if they need to be intuitive or not, and what number I need to do, so I don't have to really remember it. So first on DL is an intuitive move. I align the center to the upper clock, okay? And then the back move, okay, so this is minus 10 thirds, plus 7 thirds, which is minus 3 thirds, minus 0 thirds, which is also minus 3 thirds, minus 11 thirds, so that's minus 14 thirds in total. So minus 14 thirds. Minus 3 thirds is minus 17 thirds. And then add 16 thirds, so that's minus 1 third. So minus 1 third plus 10 thirds is 9 thirds. Plus 6 more thirds is 15 thirds. Minus 2 thirds is 13 thirds. So, yep, 13 thirds on the front. Then we go to the back with 13 thirds minus 18 thirds, which is minus 5 thirds. Minus 6 thirds, which is minus 11 thirds. Minus another third, which is minus 12 thirds. Plus 22 thirds, which is 10 thirds. Plus 8 thirds, which is 18 thirds, which evaluates to 6. Okay. And then the next few ones are easy. So that is an intuitive move. So that's an I. And then LB to DB. So that's 6 to 8. So that's a 2. Okay. And then for, that's a DNF because I moved the pin, huh? And then, so with the L pin state, that's another intuitive move. And then for the back one, that's RB to UB, so that's 11 to 9, that's a minus 2. And then for the UL pin state, okay, so that's 1 third, no, so that's 10 thirds minus 7 thirds minus 13 thirds. Just gotta make sure I edit this out. 1 third. It's getting dark. God. Minus 2 times 8, 16 thirds. So minus 15 thirds is minus 5. Okay, that's the last number I need. I'll just put that right here. Okay. That didn't take long at all, did it? Okay, well, let's go ahead and try. So first is, hang on, there we go. First is DL, so then the first move is intuitive. Align the center clock to the upper clock. There we go. And then it's a 6 on the back. Then we're into R. We align D with L, that's the intuitive move. It's 5, and I was DL. Okay, undo the 5 and the 3 switch. It's looking pretty good. Little DR, that is DR, okay. 6, 4 on the back, and then it's a 3 on the front, or just solve the block. And then you can do this one intuitively, but I decided to be a bit more sure about it with the calculation, that last one there. And that's a minus 5, and we've done it! It works! We've done it! Oh, what a great feeling. I've been here for like 5 hours. Please let me go, please! So it works, but I'm just not very fast at it. Well, fortunately, I do know somebody who's very much more experienced on 7 Simul than I am, and I think he should give it a shot. He could probably get it down pretty quickly. Tommy Cherry, you want to give it a try?
Method's pretty easy, so let's give it a go. Yeah, I mean, you know, no major issue with the method. It's pretty viable.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I knew you could do it. I knew this was viable. Yes! And you didn't even have to get past stage 1. Stage 1, you say? What do you mean by that? There's a bit of an elephant in the room here. Some of you may have suspected. Well, this method uses fractions. Doesn't that mean some of the moves you get in the math of it all will be fractions as well? Yes, certainly. When I was first developing this method, 1 in 3 scrambles worked and the other 2/3 didn't. I was actually kind of happy when I got one that worked. But I just had to think to myself, mathematical robustness and exhaustion. And so I kept pushing and I developed this further. This method is not just one stage. In fact, it is 4 completely functional stages. And if you are going for exhaustion and robustness, you should be expected to memorize all 4 of these. And yes, these do work 1/3 of the time, just like the first one, and they will all be available in the description, and they all have fractions. Now let's do a little bit of math here. If it's a 1 in 3 success rate, and we have 4 of these, then that's 4/3, right? We're guaranteed to win by memorizing all 4 of these. And 4/3 is a great fraction. But you know what's an even better fraction? 4/1. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.